Welcome, everybody. I'm so happy to have you here for this Eating Peace webinar. I haven't done a Eating Peace webinar in quite a while. Lots of little mini workshops and programs and classes and retreats have gone by since I've done just this sort of style. So I just want to say at the very beginning, for people here and those listening to the recording, that any questions that come up, you can either put in the Q&A or write to me, and ask me questions anytime. I'm pretty good about getting back to people with on email, grace@workwithgrace.com. So, um, eating peace. Where do we begin on such a topic? And I know it is a deep struggle for so many people, very, very painful. Eating seems to be like an early of all the compulsions that we can pick from to choose. And many of us have multiple. Like, let's just be honest about that. Like, that's what it looks like. There's a bunch of different compulsions, but they get sort of more subtle, or well, who knows? This one is around something that we need to live, and we're eating basically when we're born. We're beginning to eat when we're babies before consciousness really comes online. And so something happens along the way around how we're experiencing food and eating, and it starts to look difficult. And that's what I really want to talk about today, that it looks like such a painful topic for so many people. It looked like pure torture. I mean, absolute hell for me for a while. But that is a deep misunderstanding, and it's very, very innocent. Like, if we knew how it for not to be a misunderstanding, then we'd have figured it out sooner, or not fallen into the disruption in our minds so deeply. And I really like calling it a spell, because it feels like we're pulled into something like a spell, right? Like, it's just so tantalizing and magnetic, and whatever a spell looks like when you have a magic spell, cast over you, like many myths and fairy tales talk about. So, I mean, I guess it's what compulsion feels like. But that's what I'm here to talk about today. And 5 shifts that I've seen, way to summarize it, a way to share about it, that really seem to like be able to break up this whole overall spell and experience of eating. But who is this for? Who is this for? People ask me that, actually, because it's not necessarily for people who are concerned about losing a lot of weight. It's not necessarily a, how to lose weight, how to lose 100 pounds. It's how to lose almost the weight of your thinking and your feelings. It's what happens before, or whatever is the fuel that's causing this process to occur, that then winds up creating weight. Except for there's so many people who have a lot of concern and trouble and worry and agonizing that look normal in weight, or look very, very thin in weight. Once you get super hyper thin, it begins to look like just dangerous in the flip-flop other direction. And I've been all of it. Somebody that looks and appears like they're bursting out of their clothes, that's so heavy, and or you need to get a new size up. And somebody that looks like they're so thin, maybe this person needs to be hospitalized, which I actually was once, and many things in between. But it doesn't matter. That's what I want to say. It doesn't really matter how the weight is showing up. I know it matters to you deeply, because it feels so oppressive, and it feels shameful and guilt-ridden, but it's really for anybody wanting to be free from the obsessive thinking and feeling about food and eating. So that's what this is about. Sometimes people can feel like they're just concerned about, 10 pounds, but endlessly concerned, or hyper label readers, or, in agony about, maybe agony is a little too strong of a word, but just kind of feeling obsessive about being healthy. So anyway, just all of that and everything in between I have experienced. So I love this from Jeff Foster, the spiritual teacher. I don't know if he's calling himself a spiritual teacher, but he is one, a meditation teacher. He said, we are only seeking ourselves. So in compulsion, in movement, in looking, we're only seeking ourselves in a million different ways. And the chocolate or alcohol or casino winnings never have the power to bring us home, ever. They don't, do they? Which is why we're here. Maybe temporarily, just a little bit. In the end, I love that he said this, addiction crumbles from the inside. For what we are is naturally at peace, naturally non-addicted. So just imagine that for a moment. You are naturally non-compulsive, non-addicted. You're born with balance. Somebody said to me the other day, oh, no, I was not born with balance. I was born underweight. I had to be in an incubator. So I've had an eating disorder since birth. But the thing is, what's interesting about that is in her mind, did she really have an eating disorder as a baby? I don't think so. There was the story is that there was a lot of concern about this underweight baby, and efforts were made to make the baby eat or fatten the baby up or get the baby healthy, whatever looked like that. But the baby didn't really know or mind what was going on, probably. I mean, there is something that was just naturally the way that baby and that being showed up. And then later, the stories began to come in that said, ooh, that was dangerous. Oh, I've had problems since I was born. That probably started affecting me right away. And I'm not saying it didn't. Maybe it did. But believing the story becomes like such a strong component in whatever's happening here. So I would suggest, just consider that you are naturally healthy. You're naturally stable. You're naturally non-compulsive. That's who you are. It's just that all this thinking and feeling gets in the way. Starts to, come in and overwhelm us. So just starting here, who wishes they did not need to be here? It's like, oh God, a webinar on eating peace. How much time have I spent in, looking at this eating process, this eating situation, this problem with food, and how old is it, and how far back does it go? I wish that I didn't have to be here. So I just want to acknowledge that sort of right up front. There's something that is, I don't know, sometimes even especially shameful, because it looks like there's so many offerings about how to resolve this. And you just know you just need to eat this certain way. I'll talk about that more in a minute. And then, you'll have the results of the body being healthy or something being stable, but something's getting in the way here. Again, thoughts and feelings, stories. So I'm glad you are here. And this might shock you, but I feel like I am incredibly grateful now for my compulsion with food and eating. I don't know if I would said that when I was still in the middle of having it rest and relax, but I might have if I'd really gotten down to what it was taking me to, what it invited me to see, where it offered me to go, to a deep sense of understanding home. I just wanted to get back home. And it looked like I went way wildly off course when I was obsessed with food and not eating and eating. So I'm going to share with you these 5 shifts. I don't know. They seem to change over time. So but something has happened with working with people with compulsion over so many years that trying to sort of form some kind of outline or structure or way that has really worked for me or what I see working for other people. And that's where this is distilled from, that seem to keep showing up. And the idea is that when we make these shifts, and it always becomes new, and there's new ways I find to work with it, new ways to deliver it, new ways to share. I had so much help that I received myself along the way, that we can move in the direction that we want to move, which is being relaxed about food in any situation in our lives, anywhere in the world, like traveling anywhere, moving anywhere, being with hunger and fullness, that we don't have to constantly be on the internet or reading books about the right way to eat or how to fix this or what we should be doing or the ingredients of stuff or whatever it is we're looking at, how to even resolve addictive behavior. And that most of all, we're not doing what is so common. Probably noticed in your own head, I've done it too, that the way we approach the need to change anything is to get control of it, get some willpower, be vigilant. And when it comes to food, that often looks like dieting and managing and tight fist with the food. Just how it looks, that I need this program and this is what it's going to look like. And you might have even been on programs before where you're like, I had it then. I went to the gym every single day at 6 a.m. and was there for an hour. And then I did this and my body looked like that and all was well. But something had you, it looked like it took a lot of effort to keep it there. Let's put it that way. And I really love seeing that there's another way, so that there doesn't have to be this vigilance or kind of like staring at something. Like where do we want this experience of food and eating to be? It's like almost, just enjoy the food, have it, like meet your hunger, and then move on. Like have other things that you're doing in your life. And it doesn't look like that. I know it doesn't look like that the way when we've been experienced from when we've been suffering. So home, I mentioned that, this feeling of being home, that it looks like we aren't. I love that Ramana Maharshi said, a spiritual teacher in the, who, I can't remember exactly whenever he died, but he's been a few decades ago, that many people following him and reading his work, but said, all that is required to realize the self is to be still. And I know that what it feels like when we're in a compulsive movement and in the mind and in our feelings, it feels very much the opposite of stillness. I mean, it felt like frantic to me. So the problem, what is the problem here? I mean, I know I just said it's thinking and feeling, having lots of thinking and lots of feelings, but you'll recognize this. We get caught in a stressful underlying cycle that looks like fear and anxiety or something goes, a feeling inside the body, of something that we are against or don't like or feel nervous about or brings up something, we're threatened, it's dangerous, and it can be the most subtle thing. And then there'll be this movement, like changing a TV channel or something over, like a pairing of that sensation or that emotion, that experience with craving. Go over here and eat, or make sure you don't eat. Either side, they're both the same thing, not eating and eating. Like, and then afterwards, so I do the thing, I do the behavior, I eat. That's like, for me, I had binge eating. So I binge eat, and then I'd feel some relief and I'd feel some movement away from that thing that that instant, quick, very speedy feeling that felt so anxious. And then afterwards, though, I would have rage and shame and frustration. And another kind of voice would come in and talk about how horrible I was. And it didn't matter how self-critical or violent that voice was. It didn't make me stop this cycle, but it was really getting stuck in this little loop cycle. So the good news here is that it's possible to question the reasons for eating and understand our own reasons for eating. They will be unique for us in certain moments, and the ways we're supposed to solve the problem. I would question that too. And we can question right versus wrong. There's so much in there about there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. And it almost clouds over just an openness or possibilities. So I like thinking of this problem as like one of these blocks. I know the blocks say what that you see on your screen. But if you took one of those blocks in your hand and you just held it in your hand lightly and looked at it and were kind of fascinated with it. Okay, that's light. That's open. There's nothing wrong with that. They're light. Children play with these blocks and they try to put them in their mouth, right? That is sort of like, who made this and how'd this go? But if we start to squeeze the block, there are really hard edges, blocks made of wood. I'm going to make myself off the video, maybe make sure you can all see the whole screens. So there's a, like if we're taking, if our hands were just squeezing around a block and squeezing it so tight, it would hurt. The edges and the corners of that block would really hurt our hand. And I think of it as that's the stories that we're thinking and how we're feeling and what we're thinking about our feelings is like squeezing the block of that present moment and what's going on very, very tightly, and it hurts. You can only keep your fist clenched for so long, and it's going to start hurting. You can only stay in one position in your body, even if you're laying down for so long, and you're going to start hurting. So it's kind of like that with this story of food and eating and what's driving us. So, okay, here's the 5 shifts. This is what I'm going to talk about. A spell that keeps us on this merry-go-round roller coaster, the usual way we try to change, and what we might do instead. I mean, they're kind of counterintuitive. How the beliefs we have prevent us from freedom. They're kind of unconscious. They're subliminal. You know, when you say subliminal message, I remember when I was a teenager, somebody said that when you go to the movies, they're flashing popcorn and things so fast and you don't even know it. I don't even know if that's true or not, but they said they were doing that. And I'm like, oh, so they just give you this little quick blink of something to help you want. Of course, now we see that in the movies, they actually do a whole ad about it, you know, to go get things before the show starts. But those are running in there. And we don't have a lot of words for them. They just are feelings first. And then how to work with this with kindness and joy and with awareness, begin to see that it can be a permanent change. So we're not flip-flopping around or on a wagon or off a wagon or doing it the right way or doing it the wrong way. Like even if you're on the right way, you know, and you're on the wagon, you don't have to hold on to it. It's just, we're just trusting life and trusting ourselves, which I know each and every person has. That's possible for each and every person. That's what's exciting. You have what it takes. So when we have make this shift, and you know, just everybody can imagine, you've probably already imagined, how would I want it if I had it the way I wanted it? What do I imagine? And I'm sure you dream. How does that person do it? What is going on over there that they have no problem? But that is the natural way. But I also see that this can actually occur, because it has for me and it has for some other people, where your actual desire to do anything crazy with food just fades out. You don't have to control it. It just fades away. And the belief that something is wrong with you, you recognize is not true. And that starts from right now. No matter what you look like right now or how much you weigh right now, or what you've been eating or not eating right now. There's nothing wrong with you. It makes sense, whatever's happened, based on the thinking and feelings that have been going on. That we can be with troubling emotions and they won't trigger us into weird eating patterns. Like I have troubling thoughts, I get nervous, I get angry, I get upset about things, but it just seems like a compulsive reaching doesn't happen. Maybe I'd say if I have any compulsions, it is like to start in thinking about a fearful story. Like, oh my God, that sounds terrible. But just the gap between going off on it and realizing, oh, there I go, is so much narrower, tinier, shorter. But it doesn't mean that we don't feel troubled. You know, like some people think they're supposed to be peaceful all the time, and that's how you get over being addicted or having compulsion. No, not true. But we feel ease and joy with eating. You can feel trust with food and eating without shame, without fear of failure, without guilt. So a little bit about me in case you've never heard of me before in your life. I love that you made your way here. It's awesome. This is a picture of me, just very briefly want to say, this is me and my three sisters on the left-hand side of the picture there. That picture is taken in 1975. I'm in school in South Africa, and I was on a diet. And I was on a diet. That was my first year of going on an official diet and being successful with the diet. And my mother was on the same diet, so I went on a diet with my mother. And I definitely already wanted to be thin. And I could see, as I've looked at this story building up, I could see where I was learning what was good and bad about bodies and shapes and sizes of bodies and what mine should look like and how I should be eating. Definitely several years before that. And some people, they start to feel that really young. It doesn't matter an age, but I am saying that there's something, there's how you're born, and then there's the stories beginning to build, and you just take it in. Conditioning, right? They say it's a conditioning. We are conditioning you to have these experiences, see life this way, see the world in the way it is. And it just set me on a trajectory of either dieting or being off the diet, or then dieting again or being off the diet, and going up and down and like a roller coaster ride, and then totally controlling everything, and then being in the hospital, and then binge eating my head off, and making myself vomit and over exercise, and then also seek for peace everywhere you can think of, until I did have a last time that I binged. It was sometime I could, see that it was somewhere around the year 1990, but there was still 10 more years of anxiousness about food and eating. And I always thought of myself as having the wrong body still. It was so great to just lose weight. If you had talked to me from then all the way till, the year 2000, I still would feel that way and just join in with how everyone wants to be thinner, and so do I. And that's when around that time, there was lots of help and healing and group therapy. And then I also encountered the work of Byron Katie. So I really began to get self-inquiry and what had happened in my life. I saw that how much I had been believing and what had been going on and what was going on in the moments when I was panicking about food and body. So all that time took me into many places that you all have probably been. And I think many of them contribute wonderfully to the process of healing. But I mention these because I think it's not required, like, oh, maybe it's over there. Oh, maybe it's over there. Oh, maybe the answer is over there. There's lots of scattering around, and that in itself can be a bit of a story, right? 12 steps, inpatient, therapists, A Course in Miracles. I did training with Carolyn Costin. I got a master's degree in applied behavioral science, went for the School of the Work. When I went to the School for the Work, this is a picture of me actually presenting at the Institute for the Work on working with people with food and eating. So I started to work with people who had food and eating issues and was sharing with other facilitators how, like what it was like, what happened, the types of people and what they're coming with and how to help them get into their thoughts and feelings and stories so that they can question them. So what I saw when I was at my first school for the work was an awareness of how terrified I was of hunger and abandonment. I just had been terrified of that. And here I was like, you know what? I can be so hungry. It is just amazing. You would be, I will not flinch. I thought I was so able to just manage. I was just such a genius when it came to hunger. Say the word genius. And what I found was that I was actually absolutely terrified of it. My way of working with fear of hunger and abandonment and being left was to like override it with kind of willpower, an incredible willpower. And I saw how much energy that took and how much control effort, so much effort. It wasn't just deep ease. So I was also aware of my terror of fullness and my judgment that either side is wrong and fear of rejection. And I just saw so much there. And I went, oh my God, that's what's been happening with food and eating. And from that point, I felt like I understood what being a normal person with food and eating was after that. And I think everybody's got that capacity within. So let's just go into the shifts. I just know it's possible for everybody. You've got the raw material. So the first shift is just noticing the threat. And it can be around the moment that there's a moment something happens. I was just working with somebody this very morning who was talking about an incident with a friend where the friend crossed a boundary, just went right into her bedroom. And she felt so uncomfortable about it. The friend didn't know that this person had seen that she had seen it. And she was like, what is wrong with her? There's just lots of fear about what it meant. This boundary crossing and not being able to trust and everything that engendered. And it just built this immediate urge for a compulsive behavior to come alive. And she could see there was sort of a tie between the two. She hadn't had a compulsive experience for like a whole month, but I can't handle this. I need comfort. I need power. There's so much pleasure, it looks like this thing is very pleasurable that we're going for. And at the same time, this thing called food is also dangerous because I overeat it, or I think of it's bad. I think it's the wrong thing for me to be eating. It's making me fat, all the thoughts about it. It's like such a push-pull, and we kind of lose. I'm eating it and I lose, and I don't eat it and I lose. There is no peaceful way to be with it. Yes, sometimes the not eating makes it so that the after effects of guilt and shame don't feel quite so terrible, but we still think we have to go without, and with just something's withheld from us. But yeah, so eating is a threat and not eating is a threat. But just looking at that and how I have this picture of the pull the fire alarm, because that's what it feels like when we start, like, there goes the hand and it's reaching for the food, or here comes the picture. I'm going to go get some food right now. Whether you're a binge eater or not a binge eater, let's just have a snack, let's eat. It doesn't have anything to do with hunger, like where the body is, like who cares about the body? This is something feels threatened. And to me, it would feel like an emergency. I'm going for it. I'm going to go get the food, cancel everything. No one knows where I am. I have to go do this in order to sort of sort through my own, I don't know, just do this process because my feelings are so worked up. So it looks kind of like this. This is really like this picture. Feelings. I'm not safe in the presence of food or life or feelings. I have to be careful and I have to manage. There'll be lots of yelling about having to manage this and getting vigilant and not have all these feelings and making ourselves positive. But just imagine questioning that thought, like overwhelmed feelings, just being able to be with feelings in the moment. A feeling of fear. Can't control the feeling, that's for sure. But I do have the choice to give my attention to it in such a way or not, or like let it kind of grow when we start to learn self-inquiry. I mean, just even knowing that I have the ability to question that I can't handle this moment. Or I have to do something about it, or I have to watch out, oh no, or just that fear is so overwhelming and so big that I can't survive it. So I'll share an example. It's from a while ago, somebody who was in the Eating Peace experience. I'll never forget. She was talking about being a dieter starting at age 10. She went on a diet at age 10, so young. And by age 22, she was a fitness instructor and she was in the gym 4 hours a day just for her own workout. And she could definitely lose weight, no problem. Very good at losing weight. Some of you have had this experience. I know others don't have this experience. Like they can never lose weight, it feels like, but everybody, it's unique. But she would feel like I can do that. I get on the wagon and I boom. But then I'm afraid of the food once I'm down at the goal weight, and kind of this outside in approach to resolving this problem. I'm still afraid. I can't let myself, drop. I need to watch myself like a hawk. So she actually dropped the diet approach, like that we're going to be outside in, call it a technical fix in a way, like just the plan that like exactly what you're going to do. And some people it's quite rigid, and found such relief and got to notice when she really did want something or if she really was hungry, and then what was going on if she wanted to kind of like blast through that. But I love that she shared, then I noticed a deepening self-acceptance and peace expanding in all areas of my life. I mean, this isn't just about this the moment with food and eating, it's about how it seeps into really how we are with everything. Janine Roth, who was somebody really important to me that maybe many of you know, because she's devoted her life towards food and eating, understanding. We'll talk about that like the food on your plate, in other words, how you're eating and what you're eating and the way you feel about what you're eating is sort of representative of how you feel about life. And when I think about my binge eating, I feel like so much fear that I wasn't going to get enough. So much fear I wasn't going to get enough. And some of those still are the thoughts that come in now, but I know to question them. I can give them attention or not. So Byron Katie said, it's the truth that sets us free. So being with these moments, honestly, and you can find the truth only when you go inside. Going outside for a solution, like, I'll go to a health stay, might be good for a little bit, but then you're going to come back into your life again, right? Or trying to convince, and that means yourself in this situation, trying to convince yourself about something, that's war. Fear is blind and deaf. So first shift is just looking at fear, just being with fear, noticing how much there is around fear. It's so uncomfortable, but there's so many thoughts about fear and getting rid of it. Welcoming fear, that's very radical. What could the use of fear be? Just putting that into the pot today is something that we're considering. Okay. Shift 2. Usually people come to this and they're like, the goal is to be thin or have perfect health. This thing that's underway when it comes to food and eating is either not healthy or not thin enough. And it looks like that's the case. But we'll just like, so circle up on that and focus on it. And that's what we're fixing, like it's broken. It feels difficult to do, but to begin to just pick up all the attention and the spotlight on that over into putting attention on kindness and love is very difficult. Like, that can't be that powerful. That's not going to really do it. That's not it. But it is quite incredible. And it doesn't mean, I don't know, that we just feel good all the time or something, you know, that never have a difficult emotion. But we're just gonna, I think there's such a strong place for just taking the needle on the record, or the spotlight that's on what I need to do to be healthy and all the rules and regulations about that, and just removing that. Like, we're just gonna stop trying to stop what we're doing. And often this begins, at least it did for me, like why I went on that diet was because I was anxious about body image. I wanted the body image to be right. So this is something we look at in peace experience, but you get to look and see what you think. It may not be pure image for you. Some people there's image there, but there's more like that I'm really focused on a condition. And I think that the food and eating is the way out of this condition, you know. So powerful to see everything that I think the image means, how I am showing up, that it's essential for my happiness. Even the health is essential for my happiness. I mean, this is sort of odd to say, but the body is not going to make it. Maybe, I think we've heard Byron Katie say things like that sometimes. The body's not going to make, so I'm betting on the loser. You know, body's not going to make it anyway. Doesn't mean to be neglectful, but how incredible it is to question, it's essential for that to be that certain way for me to be happy. And it doesn't mean I give up in resignation and lay down and do nothing. So what we're really doing is kind of saying, okay, as I'm understanding, what are the small changes that I can make? I talk about this. I did in the Eating Peace workshop I did a couple of weeks ago, and in Eating Peace experience. What's the little tiny 1% change? If I'm a little sailboat sailing across the ocean of life, and I'm a tiny little sailboat in the middle of the ocean, and I make a 1 degree change in my direction and the course of where I'm going, I will end up eventually in a completely different beach, a different country. And you can't even tell what the change was when I'm out on the ocean. You can't even, it's not even discernible with the eye. That is it's this beautiful way to change. Like if a kid's learning to walk, they get up, they get down, they crawl, they get up, they get down, but they're going to get there. It's just the time takes however it takes. And we're going to make these little changes. But back to the body and just looking at the concern about the body image. I mean, that was my everything. It looked like it was so essential for happiness that I would be this very thin person. I just wanted to be thin, like in the magazines. I had the 17 magazine. I didn't have it. I think my mother wasn't going to ever let us have a subscription to 17 magazine, but I read it at friends of mine's houses, and it was definitely influential. And they would talk about weight and the perfect weight, and here's how much somebody weighs, and show a picture of her. And I just wanted to be that low weight like that. And that was definitely happening when I was 14, 15 and went on that first diet. So my attempt to control my food and eating all began with, first, it is definitely needed. I definitely need to have the appearance be as perfect as possible. And, you know, that there would be this term in friends or even in my family, fighting weight. I'm at my fighting weight. And that was like cool and hip, and you're super athletic and thin to win. So it almost definitely had this moral success writing on it, like joy of food, nourishing myself. Who cares about that? We're not even going to think about that. In fact, maybe even joy of food is actually just, we need to throw that out. This is all about doing it right, getting it right. So this goal started kind of taking over everything else. And then overeating became evil and wrong and a failure, and undereating became this perfect and right thing to do. And both were very painful places to be and very self-centered. And I know sometimes we say, oh, you're so self-centered, and that's terrible because you're shouldn't be looking at yourself that much. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, but I am looking at myself that much. And it definitely was. I mean, we want ourselves to be, you know, having the most successful life, but it looks so personal. It looks so personal. And I thought I was doing really well when I was doing this diet thing because I was successful. I mean, it was like this challenge, and first time I ever did it, and I was successful. Of course, then I had the swing of coming back and gaining weight for the first time in my life into an overing, like 3 pant sizes in one summer type of thing. Once it kind of kicked over and I was having an emotional trouble. But so I think it's important to hold, you know, thinness is required for success. Eating the right way is required for success. The body must be a certain way for me to be happy. And to notice this inner thinking and feeling is like cause and effect. So the mind is saying the cause of my problems are this lack of health and this lack of perfect body and this lack that's going on. And the way I'm going to have the perfect health, I know the avenue for it. And it just is so painful and difficult. And I wind up feeling despairing. I felt like I was being controlled. I was unhappy. I dropped out of college because of my eating. I mean, it became everything, and I thought I was a completely broken person. So I really think because of the beginning points of this story that it was for me and for so many, these shifts are built on this foundation of letting go of whatever's perfect or just ideal or longed for, and all that thinking about it. So I need comfort. Oh, please, my God, I need comfort. I really don't have any. I need to have that body so that I'm not rejected. Oh God, I need that. I need that so bad. Just built on that kind of thinking and feeling, and all the lack of trust that we've arrived at. And what's amazing is that's in the mind. I never thought I was trustworthy. I thought I cannot be trusted with food. I cannot be trusted. I just, yeah, I couldn't be trusted with food and other things too. Um, I felt very untrustworthy. So that was really challenging. The thoughts that we have about ourselves are so much of that is what we do in Eating Peace experience. It's the self, how we are seeing the self, how we are viewing who we are as a human being. But then this one strong one, I'm not trustworthy. I have proof. Look at how I'm being. Look at how I've been with food. So it's really interesting, but it's possible to change that. I mean, just welcoming in, like, what if you are okay the way you are? What if you are trustworthy? You just haven't seen it because of your thinking. Anyway, we don't have to stay in that repetitive torture of I need to be thin in order to be thin. I notice my body is like just a regular normal weight. I feel like a normal person, and it's been that way for several decades. There is no thought about what needs to happen with food and eating. Little things that I learned, but they don't feel like this monumental emotional experience. So just to bring that home, I kind of said it, but the solution often for, you know, what do we need to do if we want a healthier body? What do we need to do if we want a thinner body? I heard it called once a technical fix. I don't know where I heard that, but so technical fix means we're getting out the tape and the hammer and the nails and the, measuring. And so we're diet, exercise, eat this, don't eat that, make the food list, make the food plans, control, measure, weigh. I had a whole long period of time where I weighed and measured my food. I know that makes some people feel very, very peaceful, but I still I was like, something is off here. I want to be free of this, that I can't be trusted. And it was really interesting to see if I'm depriving myself and I think it's right, that's the right thing to do, I'm losing. It feels bad to deprive yourself and think of that it's right. And then, but is that comfortable and joyful and peaceful? And absolutely not. It wasn't like that when I was weighing and measuring everything. And if I was overeating and stuffing myself and all that was happening, definitely wrong. I was also losing. And I know that we can understand and kind of ask more, why am I eating? What's happening here, without so much shame and attack? So another example, I loved this. I started the Eating Peace Experience, and there was a woman named Sherilyn who was taking the program, and she happened to be in Hawaii on the week that it started. So she was on the beach and wearing a bathing suit and seeing herself in the mirror, and she was absolutely dismayed. It's like her worst nightmare about how she saw her relationship with food and eating and her body was right in front of her. And so she started right in going like, my God, look at this, because she had the self-hatred about what she saw. Remember her describing having a 2-piece and she should have a 1-piece instead, and bathing suit. She started in doing this work to access a different kind of imagination. So, when we're thinking it looks ugly and it's wrong and it's bad, we're using our imagination as a tool against ourselves, for like to scare ourselves or get despairing, or it just takes off in like a real horror movie. And instead, so we do the work, and we might be playing with imagination, but to wonder, who am I without that thought? Who am I without the story? And to turn it around, like, what if I'm okay? What if can use my imagination for what it would be like if I wasn't unacceptable? I love that she immediately had this touch of freedom, and it remained steady. It, like, something happened, and she just said it was really obvious because of where she was, and that it was right in front of her face, around her, in people's bodies and in her own. And that can happen, like staring at ourselves and seeing, I learned that this was ugly. I wasn't born like this. Something happened, and that became my way of seeing. I would look through the glasses that say, whatever you do, when you see this, it's ugly. And we're just relaxing with that. And that doesn't mean it will never change, because I notice my body is balanced into this normal weight. Okay, shift number 3. Very wide and big kind of idea. My thoughts are true. Kind of been talking about this. What I am thinking is true, and that we just take off into the story. It looks so true. It looks real. So, such a huge invitation to question our mind and do it gently and treat it like the wind blowing, that it's not so serious, or it's like our hand gripping a block. Just loosen up on it. Just begin to see it's not so serious. Oh, it's a thought that's passing. It's passing energy through the mind. So, like an itch. I really love it, seeing it. So the compulsion comes like an itch. Oh, what is this? What was this itch? Can I live without the itch, without scratching for immediate relief? Because this itch appears. I want to eat the thing. What if there is something that isn't all about being right or wrong or good or bad or on or off, you know, and I'm just deeply curious about what's happening. I really want to know the truth. I really want to understand. I sure did. I mean, don't you all really want to understand what is actually happening here? This is so fascinating. This is really an interesting thing. I know some of you're like, I just want to get rid of it. I can't stand it. I want to hate it. But how did this come to be? What is going on? That's what I think the orientation is that I learned from Byron Katie. You know, just the work of Byron Katie, it has these 4 simple questions that we can bring this kind of approach to. Like, I'm just wondering what shows up in my mind. I'm not making myself wrong for having a thought that shows up in my mind. And in fact, I'm welcoming it all. Bring it on. Let's see what my feelings are actually saying. I heard the other day that you can have a feeling, like a gut, immediate feeling, and not know what the thought is that is related to this feeling, the perception, the interpretation, the assumption you're making for 7 seconds. Like that's how much faster the body is taking in what's going on and jumping to its assumption, you know. That's quite a long time, 7 seconds. So we just start to close that gap and go, what is this? Or I'm with the feeling. I'm with the feelings that I have before I want to reach for the food or after I've already eaten and I'm starting to attack myself. Relax with that. Let's just, we're pausing on that. So here's a little piece of inquiry. You may or might not sit here because it might take just in the interest of time, like just notice, but you can notice right now, if I ask you, what do you think it will take for you to get past this problem? What would it take for you to heal your compulsive eating or lose weight or end your eating issues permanently? What does it take to end your eating if this was just to dissolve permanently and completely? What would that take? So just see what comes up. And if anybody wants to, you can put it in the Q&A on your screen. And you also don't have to share. I know it's the webinar style, so we might not have that much interaction or sharing. But just notice. Notice how much you have thought of these things. I love that. Somebody shares, I think I have to work so hard. 'Cause isn't that amazing to see? I have to work so hard. That's what it would take. So you see this hard work that would be going on. Someone else says, I'm to not be terrified of putting on weight. That's what it would take. Just not be terrified. Oh, that's so good because it's like, I need to not feel the fear. The terror has to not be there. Got to get rid of it. And someone else says, a feeling of peace. That's what I need. A feeling of peace. Okay. And someone else says, to control every day, every meal. All right. So just notice your thinking, and you've probably had different solutions at different times about what it takes for you to get past this problem. And even just for this moment, what if that wasn't true? You know, what if it wasn't true? What if that doesn't take that? Do you know what that thing that looks like it would take and how hard that looks? Either all that effort or the hardness of it, or that I got to get rid of terror and gosh, I've been so afraid. I don't know how to do that. And that I have to have a feeling of peace all the time. That's what it takes. Just, or anything else that goes with it, you know, seeing yourself eat the right food, do all the whatever it takes to get past this problem. I would just notice if that looks stressful. That's the main thing. Does it look stressful or not so stressful? Usually it looks stressful. What if I need to relax? just to give you a little tiny sense of just for today, what if the things that I think are required to heal this, if they cause any stress whatsoever, it's not true. So in the old way of thinking that gets really locked in, but how we feel about ourselves, it's like, I am too much, I want too much, I'm too greedy, so I need to control and punish and follow a plan and make sure I'm doing it right, right? Then I'll feel peaceful and happy. So it's like control, management, punishment, following a plan, violence, vigilance, and war leads to peace. I will suffer and then I'll be happy later. That is the old way of thinking. That is an old story. So there was a woman who came to do eating peace work with me, and she had lost 100 pounds like the previous year. And here she was so upset because she had gained it all back. And so many of you have had this experience. And there's been a bunch who don't have this experience. But I would say, even if you have never had that much kind of like weight on, weight off, that it's the idea that something was under the whole, even if you're on the wagon, there's something underneath that was totally unhealed. And she was sharing, she got really involved with men because she was thin, and she exhausted herself and didn't have like her own yes and no clearly. And the only way to really feel safe, because she was so frightened, was to gain back the weight and to keep all those men away. And like I just remember her saying, yeah, she got involved with all these different people and kind of like freaked herself out. And so there was something going on there that is very worth looking at. And it can all be resolved. It can all be looked at. There is no like, that was a big mistake and it's broken and ruined and terrible forever. No, it's like, that's actually very interesting. I'm like, let's look and with compassion. So back to that idea, in a way, what if you could be okay right now with what you are, like that nothing is required. The raw material that is you is enough. The thoughts you are thinking may be quite repetitive. It's how to solve this problem, but it doesn't mean you have to believe them. It doesn't mean they're true. Okay. So, oh, Elisa, I love this. So we start to look at these detailed moments, the things that kind of throw us off, or like these points when we're doing the compulsive behavior. We're very, very, very curious about these compulsive moments, this experience, this crackdown on, controlling every meal type of attitude, whatever it is, whether it's control or out of control, because they're both two sides of the same coin. So there was a woman, Elisa, and she was in the eating peace experience, and she had this moment that was so great. Her 5-year-old daughter was having a tantrum in the kitchen about not being able to eat something. Like they were waiting until dinner before eating something, and she was having a fit, which was so great because isn't that what we feel like? A 5-year-old that, like, somebody's telling me when I'm on a diet, there's a control factor going on, and I'm screaming inside about not being allowed to eat. But she saw, by writing a worksheet and writing down everything that she was thinking, was how wrong it was. She thought to once. She was furious at her 5-year-old. So you could do this if it's an inner 5-year-old or an actual 5-year-old. Hers was an actual 5-year-old right in front of her face, like there's her daughter. And she also believed, I have to say yes to make this tantrum stop. I have to give her the cookie, I have to. Or you can be stubborn and be saying, I will never give the food. I am the one in control. I've got the power. Both sides are very difficult. But she found these turnarounds. I am in favor of tantrums and demands and wants and desires. Like, I can welcome them. I'm not against them. I've spent my whole life being against them. And for many years, since I was like 10, Now what if I was in favor of them? She was like, huh? How weird, but wow, I'm open. It's okay to want food. In fact, it's right to want food. Um, I mean, we all need food just to survive in the body. How is that wonderful? It's wonderful. Like just trusting the way the universe is set up. We need food to survive in the body, but also that we might want other things besides food that we've been substituting food for, like safety and power and acceptance and comfort. And we wouldn't be going for these things if they didn't provide comfort, right? So I like noticing it doesn't seem like I'm in charge of what I want or I desire. I already want it. Like, oh, I want that. I'm looking and I want it, but I do have the power to give them attention to it or not. Like, do I really, what's like, is that really required for happiness? And I can see what provides balance, but I don't have to say yes for the tantrum to stop. I always thought if I have a huge compulsion to eat the food, then there's like this breakthrough where I'm just going for it and eating, 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 eating. And that's the only way that this compulsion is going to stop, is if I actually eat. But I love that she could bring compassion to her child, that she could actually do it with her daughter and then bring it to herself. And there was something very meaningful in that shift. So I'm say the two more shifts and then we're going to be just done, but I want to do a quick summary of where we are. So we must question the belief that we're not safe either around people or food or life, like just looking at the power of fear. I think somebody even said, well, I want to get rid of it, the fear. And I would like to never feel afraid again, but I think it's probably going to happen. Probably regularly, probably today, later, knowing me and the way my mind is. But there's something so gentle in seeing that the mind's job is to be worried and anxious, like watch for danger. It's the nervous system is activated. There's like a survival mechanism going on. But I can survive fear and loss, and they change and they fade out. And so that's shift number one, like making friends with fear in a way. I don't know if you can quite say making friends with it, but just like studying it, being curious about it, allowing it, noticing the storm of it. It doesn't have to take over everything that I am. Then also giving up the need to be a certain way, healthy, thin, in order to be happy. And I'm judging myself as wrong or right, either side. Ooh, I did that right. Oh, I did that wrong. Just stepping out of that whole thing. Like that Rumi's out beyond the field of right and wrong. I want to open up to that. And then shift 3, using the tool of the work of Byron Katie to question thoughts, to like identify them and question them. They just aren't true. What I'm thinking isn't true. And how do I really know? It's like when I feel stress. If I feel stress about it, I know I'm believing a lie. That's very good news. So let's just go to shift 4. Eating what the body truly wants and needs. I have said so many times, I said to myself, I just want too much, like I was mentioning in, one of the shifts. Nobody really wants to eat until they're sick. And no one wants to refuse all food. Like just be controlled every minute, gripping the block hard, like just holding that block so all the edges just poke in and hurt. So what do I really need? It looks like, sometimes I need water and sleep and shelter, maybe most, for basic survival. What do I need? And then looking at what I need, like it's just exploring what I need and being willing to let that be the way it is and unfold. And it doesn't mean I don't try to go for things that look really interesting. I notice that all the time. There's so much joy of creativity. Just making this whole webinar. Is it required? Of course not. But it looked fun to do it. So you don't become somebody that never does anything if you question everything that you need, you know? So I know this is really tricky to do. Eat whatever your body really truly wants and needs, like eat, and we can do it. We can get closer and closer to that the less we take our thoughts, all those emotional reasons for eating so seriously, or believe that only food, eating the food, is the thing that's going to help us not need the thing we really want, or help us have comfort, or help us relax or slow down. So, I've mentioned this already, but that when we feel out of control, here comes the dictator. And then sometimes I'm listening to the dictator tell me what to eat, and I have to follow the rules, and I can't be free, and I need to be vigilant. And then I'm guilty if I don't follow the rules, and ashamed and disappointed. I become a failure. So it's a really difficult, the whole experience is very painful, of course. I think personally, when you have really heavy, lots of detailed diet plans, it can make things very complicated. Or whatever it is your format is of thinking this is the right way to do it, then it's your fault if you fall off the diet, or like if you have other rules and regulations about how it's supposed to be. Doesn't necessarily have to be just diet, but it's your fault if you're not doing it right. Like, here's the right way to do it, display, like exhibit 1. And if you're not doing it, it's your fault. There's such a deep thing about it's your fault and you're doing it wrong. The reason you're failing, it's because of your wanting problem. I mean, I would notice this later in the same process of inquiring around money. I don't have enough money. There must be something wrong with me. It is my fault. No one else can do anything with money except for me. So I need to fix something around me and money, which led to a whole world. And it's the same kind of thing as with the food and eating. And with some of us, so that focus on food and eating, it becomes your problem. There's something wrong with you. And then other people see you, and maybe your weight's climbing, or they see you eating only salad with a dressing on the side, never eating. They either see you eating or never eating. And you just start to feel very isolated and closed down, and don't accept invitations, and stay away from places where there will be food, and I'm not present. Like, this is certainly the way I was. I don't even want to go. I don't want to join in with life because it's me. I'm the problem here, which is why we focus so much on thoughts about the self in eating peace experiences. But so it's me, and they might even think so too. I think my family thought something was definitely wrong with me because I had an eating disorder. And my wanting doesn't go away. And so it just keeps persisting, this wanting. That's the problem. So I think it is just so important to be looking at wanting, and with also, again, patience, slowness, compassion, loving kindness. Because of course we want. I just think we're built to want. So questioning the thought, what I want is too much, so I need control. It just is so fast. They're like almost melded together. If you want too much, control. But that's it. I would say, that so people will sometimes ask me about, well, if I'm vegan, what should I do? Because I want, but if you're if you're choosing vegetarianism, for example, and that's important to you, that has nothing to do with this experience of what off balanceness. It's I mean, you can look and see what's meaningful, but if it's really meaningful to, like, as an overall social human, how the reasons that you're doing your choices for, that has nothing to do with compulsion. And sometimes I meet somebody who is vegetarian or vegan because they actually are trying to just limit food so that they don't get fat. So you do get to ask yourself that, but often it's not the case. It doesn't mean that if you, in any case, anything that you care about, like what is actually in food, or eating industrial food, or eating food that has, fake corn syrup or whatever. I notice that I don't eat those, you know. It doesn't mean if I'm questioning, in other words, that I wind up just eating things like that all the time. That's kind of more the old way. So question around this, how do just noticing and opening to eating what the body really wants. What does it feel like? What does it feel like to be peaceful and know that that's what you're going to do? Eat what the body really wants. That's what you're capable and able to do. What would it be like to never think about what you're supposed to be eating tomorrow, or that you could do it wrong? I think that's what it's supposed to feel like. It's natural, and you probably know that inside of you. Maybe some of you even had that, like when you were a little kid. To lose the fear of eating is incredible. It's so wonderful. You can celebrate with food, and it's meant to have that place in the world, like being shared with other people, but also just, used by yourself daily for fuel. But I really love that you take it in, you enjoy it, and you move on. So not lots of thinking about doing it wrong. I guess I had so much fear about it, and so much carefulness, and so much horror of my own wanting, that there was just even more thinking about every encounter with food was a difficult one. So I think of just imagining enjoying it innocently, like with gusto and joy. Got that word gusto from Janine Roth, but just that you're happily eating and stopping the eating. So before a meal, beginning a meal, ending a meal, and all the in-between space between eating is all all comfortable for you as far as the eating and the body goes. Um, Many people think if you eat whatever you want, you'll just have so quickly that thought, but I want too much. I will be 300 pounds if I eat whatever I want. And I really suggest that you don't actually want to be eating and eating and eating and binge eating. I never wanted that. It's so uncomfortable. So just that underlying belief appears in there that what I want is wrong. And I would just suggest there's something that you want that's right. Let's put it that way. There's something wanted here. And you could find out what it is, and it's probably not food. So I just think, noticing, some of you have done this, you're familiar with the work of Byron Katie, you're noticing thoughts, and I thought I'd share a couple. Um, so this shift, eating whatever your body wants. I would have the thought I shouldn't eat sugar, and I can't live without cream. I would have like whole cream in whatever hot drink I was having in every morning. And then something changed about that, and I never have cream now. I mean, I have other things that are not whole milk, dairy milk cream anymore. So it is wonderful to explore. It's been wonderful to explore those moments where I'm wondering why I'm so compelled to have sugar in the moment. What needs to be sweetened up here, or what comes to me to ask what question? What does eating candy help me with? Do I really need this? Am I sad that I won't have this anymore? What looks bitter if I need this moment to be sweetened up? And you can go the opposite side too. Like, if I'm thinking I'm not ever allowed to have that, um, that's equally as stressful. So just noticing I can have whatever I want. I can have whatever I want. The great question here is just exploring what I actually want. And it can be amazing to see. Maybe I don't want what I think I wanted. So I love the finding out what we really want, what I really want. I guess just bringing that home. It isn't binge eating or starving or dieting or having all the junk in your mind about food. And you wouldn't be here if you wanted the wrong thing. I am sure of that. None of us really would be. So, very interesting example of this is a woman, Diane, was a student in the Eating Peace experience, and she shared a memory of going to a lecture when I think she was only like a teenager. And the person giving the lecture said, "The whiter the bread, the sooner the dead." And she had been like forever putting that on, that you're asking for death or something, like, I mean, like, that's pretty intense sentence if you have white bread. And I had a memory of that in my own mind, that we're supposed to have lots. My mom always baked the bread in our house, and it had lots of what one of my friends said, sticks and rocks in it. Lots of like whole grains and stuff in it. And there was a whole thing about how refined stuff is really bad, but just to be so frightened of it, like it means you're going to die. So I just love that she shared that in the group, and was seeing how much she scared herself with it. And she decided to have it sometimes, like it to feel like she could experiment and notice, and then it didn't mean that she was going to be eating it all the time. In fact, sometimes when you let it be there, you actually notice that you don't want it so much. You just see how it works in your body. Let your body be more of the leader. So, oh, somebody shares, I just saw your note saying, I only feel I'm insatiable because I won't let myself eat enough in the first place. So common. I would do this all the time. Yeah, I'd be so hungry. No wonder my body is like, doing what it needs to do, saying, hey, we need some more. Of course, that would, like, it's set up to do, like, meet the hunger. It means it's time to eat. And I wouldn't do it. But I really like this question. It comes out of a spiritual practice. What would kindness do? And I thought, what would kindness eat? If you were just completely kind, if you were taking care of somebody that was in your same situation, what do you really need? They might, you might want to find out what they need that isn't food. But I also think it's so important to notice, what do you want to have in your life? What do you want that you don't need to eat to escape from it? Like, I have this life, I have this moment of fear, like shift number one, looking at emotions, heavy emotions. And I'm quick reaching over here to go into the yummy food, or avoiding food. And so there's an avoidance or an escape pattern that runs with all compulsion. This is true about all compulsion. And so what is it that I'm escaping from? That's important in all this process. And the very last shift is to work with others. And I worked with a therapy group. I went to 12 steps and they were wonderful. When I first went to 12-step meetings, I was amazed. The ones I liked best were AA, because they were just the oldest, and I wouldn't get into a lot of detailed stuff around overeating and lots of debates about eating. But just that people could talk about things that were in their hearts out loud absolutely shocked me when I first went, when I was only 19. But there's a shared intention and a support. And I do think it's powerful when people gather. So you can get friends and James Clear, I mean, he's really like, he's the Atomic Habits guy, right? And he talks about making a change has to be obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. Easy, notice. And that's not a completely, like, he's not necessarily talking about all these emotional background and all this huge backstory and all the stuff that's happened to us and our dealing with trauma and desire for comfort. He's talking about these little shifts and changes, but I do like that he's saying this, it has to be obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying for us to be able to do it. But then he mentions this around sharing with other people or getting support in your life so you don't feel like you're so alone in the process. Habits are like the atoms of our lives. Each one is a fundamental unit that contributes to your overall improvement. I mean, you could question, I endlessly need improvement. Is it true? You know, like can relax on that. But it means like if you do want to, because he had a huge accident and he knew he wanted to learn how to walk again and function in his life. So it's like speaking to that, you know, how do I just the little tiny 1% shifts that I can make. And then he goes on to say, surround yourself with people who have the habits that you want to have yourself, and you'll rise together, which I think is powerful and sweet. Just support in however way that shows up, whatever way that's possible. So the way I see it with these shifts is that at least I sure did have a mindset that's been in place, was in place for years. And these determined how I was eating and the energy I was eating with and the attitude I had towards my body and towards myself as a human being. And the food and eating was just symbolic of other things that were happening about like the way my beliefs. And it does take practice. It's not like I can wave a magic wand and you're done. But to have less of all this rigidity and the I don't know, effort to do it the way we think it needs to be done is really exciting, to trust that it will show up the way we need to do it. No different. So if we're investigating the subconscious stories, we can behave in new ways with eating with food, but without trying. Do you know what I'm saying? You investigate the stories that are running in here, and that new ways of being with food and eating actually naturally occur. It just shifts. You just notice, I'm looking a little different when it comes to food and eating. I'm behaving differently. I'm not having to manage the difference. I'm studying my wanting and something in me is relaxing. So it is wonderful to be with groups that share embarrassing thoughts. When I was in one of the most powerful groups that I was in my 20s, I was the only person with an eating disorder. And I thought, I'm never going to talk about this. How did I even get in this? It was like a therapy group, and people would get into, investigating. And there was a lot of like looking at your thinking, looking at your feelings, noticing what's really true. It's before I learned the work of Byron Katie. And that was actually amazing to be what I thought was the only person with this problem, because it showed up that way for me. But I saw everybody has their ailments and their humanness, and they were so accepting of me. And I didn't have to have special, special case, bad scenario. So just trust there is support somewhere for you in your life. And so for those interested, I'm going to share a little bit about the Eating Peace experience, because knowing how much support I had in my own life, I will share. It just became natural to me to create a supportive program to offer, like as a group, to step out of this doing something alone, to be able to channel these shifts into a process and do it together. And, and I'm doing it right there alongside everybody. So, all right. So everybody, I'll just share a little bit about it, and then please ask questions. And we're almost done here. But I do see, as I mentioned, that gathering together, the main thing is you have thinking and feeling that's clouding balance. And we can tap into that, and it can be changed. We can allow it to change. We have power over what we're giving our attention to. So I love Katie's quote here. You are the storyteller. You have become the stories you told yourself. And you are what lives prior to every story. Story, suffering. Inquiry, no story, no suffering. Freedom is possible in every moment. I know that is true for everybody who suffers from compulsive behavior, because it's happened for me, happened for Byron Katie. It's happened for other people that I've worked with who've changed and shifted and have had things occur that have been just amazing. So that's what we're doing, is kind of following a track together so that we are collectively, being able to bring up our questions and question our thinking, the typical thinking that happens, so that when we're wrestling with food and ourselves, most of all, and our minds. So I think of this as for anyone who's tired of thinking about food, eating, and weight, and you might have weight and you might not have weight that needs to change. I mean, how it shows up on the outside isn't what this is really all about. It's about this internal experience. And we're inquiring and bringing in awareness and relaxing around all the guilt and shame, like a shame buster, I must say, because whatever thinking and stories and feelings that we've had, it's almost like we can't help them. That's what it is to be a human being. So they show up. And like we're just learning to be with our own human condition without so much like isolation and feeling, oh my God, this is horrible. So I love being with people on this journey. And at first, when I did Eating Peace Experience, it was like only 2 months long, and then it became 3 months long, and then it became 5 months long, because I love that. I think it needs some time, and everybody's looking and working and processing and learning, and there's no failure, just being able to look and see there's no failure. So in the module form of what we do and what we go over is some of what I've just spoken with today, like in these shifts. It's like spell breaking is really looking at the stories and questioning them and noticing how we get so caught in it all, and unraveling that. And some of them are about then the second module is about looking at feelings, including shame and anxiety and sadness, and then emptiness and boredom and powerlessness, these reasons that we eat, these reasons that we seem to eat, and what eating will help. And, not just eating, other things too. The trauma that we've had often seems very much to be one of the reasons why we're eating. We all know that there's a connection between difficult experiences, but even just looking at what memory is and how we're using it and what we feel about ourselves when we have a difficult experience from the past, that can be addressed in a different way with inquiry, without we're not covering it up or covering it over, but noticing the safety of the moment now, questioning stories about bodies and the beliefs we have about what they're supposed to look like, and really living with whatever is satisfaction, being in the world with satisfaction. Whatever, it's funny, I say living in the peace zone with food and eating, but it doesn't mean we're supposed to be peaceful at all the time, at every moment. Just notice, I think, we're supposed to have, just like the weather is supposed to be, I live in Seattle, it's raining. It's supposed to be rainy, and the wind is supposed to blow, and fires are supposed to happen, apparently, and hurricanes and all kinds of stuff. And who knows? like what's going on. And that all is underway, and then it's sunny. I do like that the sun is always shining behind the whole thing, whoever we are, what we are. So I had some slides for each and every one, but I think I'm just going to skip ahead to the end in the interest of time. I like this little saying, your mission, if you choose to accept it, is over the next 5 months. Of course, there we are looking at the future, and we could drop that. But over the next 5 months, to shift from this agony that we've had, worried, angry, discouraged about the off-balance eating and the weight, to feeling relaxed and peaceful and free. Like just holding them both, and noticing. And so we get off that merry-go-round, because when we're in that cycle that I talked about at the beginning, when you feel fear or guilt, and then you reach and eat the food, and then you have self-hatred and failure because you ate the food, it kind of keeps you in this whirlpool. And we're just looking at getting off that merry-go-round, that spinning spin cycle, like kicking the wheel and making it keep spinning. So I also like to say that if it's right for you, you will lose weight or gain weight in a natural kind of way, in a kind way. And there's a lot of help with how that looks, even to make that little 1% changes, those small changes, to make them kinder and safer. Because so often it's like, go out and get all these kinds of foods, throw all those kinds of foods out of your house, and suddenly everything's changing. I don't know, have anybody done that before? I've done that before. And it just looks like lots of rules, and don't eat past 6 p.m. and don't do this. And those just wind up getting very complicated, like I said. So, but there are ways to be in touch with action, the creativity of life and being in action. So we're not just giving up and laying on the floor and saying, I guess I just won't do anything at all. There are ways to be supporting ourselves actively in the middle of all that, and moving towards what it is that the direction it looks like we're going in. I'm I think I'm writing a book for like 10 years, and I've got this little ebook that maybe some of you have read. It's a little bit old. I need to update it. And I think about writing a book, and then I don't work on it, or then I do work on it a little bit, or then I make an outline or whatever. And there is something to getting another support person in my life to do writing stuff. And I've done that from time to time, and it's wonderful. And you kind of make little movements, like what would work, what does work, what's kind, what's gentle. So so you let me know if you have any questions. Felt like I wanted to just skip ahead. Anyway, the right now there's an early bird way of joining, and I'm going to do that till tomorrow because of this webinar, so that people can have time to think about it. And it is $1,000 off. It is like just chopping it way down. And I don't know, I have no idea why something shows up the way it does, but that's the way it showed up this time. And I just felt like I was good. It felt good to be doing it that way. And so that's happening now. And the place to find the code that you would put in to get the early bird, which I didn't have up here on this slide, is on my website, workwithgrace.com/eating peace experience. You read about the program, and when you scroll down the page, it's got the codes in red, and they'll be there tomorrow until the end of the day at some point. So Friday at the end of the day, some point, they'll work on the checkout page. In other words, it's like a code that you add in. It says, I think it's EPE, early bird. You spell it out. It's different if you do the payment plan, if it's a payment plan, or if you just do it all at once. And we won't actually start until Monday. We'll have a live call. And there will be a questionnaire that you get to share with me. I just want to get to know you a little bit. And there'll be lessons that go with all of this, starting on Friday. They're just gonna, I like to do it with sort of ease and gentleness, and we have live calls, and those are all Mondays, Tuesdays, or Thursdays. So you could pick anyone to come to. They're all an hour and a half. I like this, the amount of time we've spent together today. And I love them. I love all the live work because people get so much from other people's questions, but there's short, brief lessons like this one today with slides or with me talking to the camera to kind of have something, here's what we're like, think about this, and here's an exercise for you that really worked for me. And we'll be doing things like that every single week. There'll be like a topic or something that we're looking at. So, I love that everyone's still hanging out here today. It's very cool. Let me know if you have questions, put them in the Q&A. Save this website to go to, in case you want to go look at the whole program. But I love doing this. I haven't done it. I usually do it starting in November. And this year I waited till January because it's just the way some of the other things that I was doing, retreats and other things that were getting offered, this worked best. So let me actually put my face up in there. Okay, hi everybody. Probably just see me small on your screen, but just in case, nobody's asked this, but you have 30 days to decide it's not for you. No questions asked. I always like to make sure everybody knows that. And somebody said, oh, what if I'm being sent? What if my doctor has told me I need to lose a lot of weight? That fits. I mean, sometimes when there's pressure about that, like the weight loss pressure, and you feel like you're suffering from diabetes or you have conditions going on, but we talk quite a bit about what you let me know what you've tried and what's gone on. And it's all about safety. That shift number one, safety first. You know how they say on construction sites, safety first. That has to be in place or you're never going to stay with it. I like just the simple thing of learning how to brush your teeth. You get a habit. Most of us learned how to brush our teeth because they discovered that quite some time ago, right? Clean your teeth, clean your mouth. It's really important. And brush your teeth. And you start feeling weird if you go someplace and you're camping or hiking in the wilderness, or you've lost your toothbrush. You actually feel weird to not do it. You're going to be okay, but you're just like, oh my God, I got to go. Does anybody have an extra toothbrush I can borrow or whatever? You feel weird not doing it. And I just think it can become like that. It feels strange. It looks like a habit and you had to learn it, something that's positive and supportive, but it can begin to feel like that with how we're approaching this body and what needs to happen here. And it needs to be safe. Like if you were afraid of brushing your teeth or somebody was screaming at you about brushing your teeth, or I don't know, then it would have some things all connected with it. So we do it gently, and there are things you can do that work for you to make it, James Clear's things, easy. Easy is my favorite. That's the main one I remember. Easy. It always looks hard what we have to do. And I can guarantee you, if you believe whatever needs to happen to have you find freedom is hard, that's not the thing. It needs to be easy. It needs to be easy, accepting, comfortable. And I think ultimately, like, there's a focus on the inner feeling that we have. The feeling instead of the behavior. Like we're looking at how we're eating and what we weigh and what the number on the scale says a lot. We're turning our attention towards how we feel. Am I feeling, oh, honey, you're not feeling very peaceful right now. What's going on? You know, like just to be the kindest, most compassionate lover of ourselves, and that we are complete the way we are, that we have whatever we need, we have what it takes. Um, yeah, there's been so much insecurity within me around whatever I'm doing. Uh, Somebody asked, do we get matched up with a partner to do the work one-on-one in the first week? We'll probably do it by the end of the first week. We'll probably start like after, and we'll kind of get oriented and situated next week. And then I'll be finding out who wants partners and who doesn't, because some people won't, well, they'll opt out initially. And so you'll get started for February, which is starting next week, with a partner. If you want a partner, you'll have a person for 1 month and then we'll switch. So you're going to get to know several different people, 5 different people over the months ahead. And partnering, in case anybody doesn't know what that is, it's where you're going to pair up to do the work with each other. You actually get to facilitate the work of Byron Katie on these thoughts. And we have some cool worksheets to write in the program that are really interesting, the topics that they're on, to identify the thinking that's running. So not a requirement to pair up with others, but it's very it's very tender, you know. It's intimate, feels really good. I think I have gotten so much from partner pairing with people. Absolutely. So anyway, about that question that was about your doctor, you know, you need to lose weight. That's definitely okay to have along the way, or you need to gain weight. That's okay to have, to be bringing that in. We're just going to relax and not necessarily approach it like it's an absolute emergency, even if it looks very important. It's like it'll, you know, we'll definitely be addressing what needs to be happening, what's right for you, your moments. Any other questions, my friends? I love that most people are still here. It's great hanging out with everybody. I really appreciate it. Appreciate your interest and your care and attention that you have towards, you know, this work, this intention. Here, I'll just come off, put my slides off, just realize that. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing to get to know oneself in such a way that we're making peace with something that has looked so dire and so impossible and so difficult. What else would be it? Maybe it's the most important thing of your life. You know, what else would be like, we'll think, why am I so concerned about something that looks so personal? Like my head is just stuck in the sand, staring at this thing. And I was like, I can't get out. It's right here. Well, just consider looking deeply at that is the way it might begin to relax. You know, it's like right here, and just we're just kind of leaning back out of everything that we've been learning. And that's what we get to do when we're questioning our thoughts. But that, you know, attending to ourselves is maybe one of the most important things we can possibly do. It made my life completely different. So it's like, you're the number one and most important person in your life. People more than Byron Katie says that you are the one you've been waiting for. And the internal family systems guy, Richard Swartz, he also will say, you are the one you've been waiting for. And there's no parts within here that are bad parts. So yeah, to make friends with ourselves and to understand what this compulsion has been showing up to teach us and be with us, like what the invitation is about this compulsion. It's an invitation to something very profound, home, finding our way home. Anyway, it certainly was for me, and it was the most important thing probably I ever learned in my life. So thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you soon, if I get to see you soon. All right, lots of love, my friends. Take care.